Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about how you can study financial reporting to get an exemption in CA Final. So, the first question is whether you should go for coaching or do self study. So, it is a very subjective question and it differs from individual to individual. It depends upon various factors such as the time that you have left and the kind of grip that you have over this subject. But having said that, in my opinion, you should go for coaching, considering how vast the syllabus is of this subject. And coaching will also help you understand concepts in a better way, and that too in a reasonable time. Then, moving on to the materials that you can refer. So, the materials are the faculty notes, ICA study material, which should be your base, then the past year papers, and the RTPs and MTPs. Then, another very important question is when you should study FR. So it is advisable to complete at least three subjects in the first year of your articleship. So those would be first would be SFM and then could be either FR and SCMP. So if you have your articleship specifically in audit, then doing FR first makes more sense because you'll be able to actually practically apply what you learned in that particular subject. But if you're doing articleship in any other domain, I think SCMP makes more sense because FR is a more volatile subject, while on the other hand, SCMP is more static and there are fewer changes in SCMP as compared to FR. And finally, moving on to how you should study FR. So the first aspect of his is with coaching. So while you're doing coaching, you should keep in mind these factors. First of all, you should be very consistent in watching those lectures, even if you're taking virtual classes. You have to be very disciplined that you watch at least one lecture a day, if not two or 1.5. And then on weekend, you should try and cover two lectures because FR is a very lengthy subject and almost all the faculties have a 300 hours class. So in order to be able to complete that in 3 months, you have to be very consistent. Then you should complete your notes. So don't think that you'll be able to remember something because after doing 8 subjects and 2.5 years of articleship, you cannot remember anything. So even if you think in the moment that you'll remember it, just it's better to always write it down. If your faculty is not making you take notes of that particular thing, but you think it is important, then take note of that. You can do it with another color pen or anything to highlight that it was not initially a part of your notes, but it is something that you have written for your understanding. Then cross numbering, this is something that not many people follow, but it is very helpful when you move on to revise your subjects. This is true for almost all the subjects. So what you should do is in your books, you should write down. So in front of a question, you should write down the number of the register, the number of page of register on which you have solved that particular question. And then in your register, you should write down the number of like the book page number where you can find that question. It is very helpful because sometimes we think about a question that we are reminded of a question and then we want to see the solution. So in that case, you can find it in the book, or you can find if you find a solution in the register and you want to refer the book. So the cross numbering helps a lot in that case. And then tally with study material. So it is very important for you to do this with coaching only because it saves a lot of time later on. So what you need to do is that after, let's say you complete a chapter, then go through that chapter in study material also. And whatever common questions you can find, you can cross that question in your class notes and not in the study material. So why I'm saying this is because what I have seen from my personal experience that a lot of time, although the questions are the same, which your teacher is making you do and what is given in study material, but still the solution is very different. The final answer might also be the same, but the solution is different. So in that case, it is always better to follow the solution that ICI is following in their study material to get more marks or something like that. So that is why I'm saying that cross those questions or strike through them with a pencil or something in your notes so that you don't duplicate or study a particular question twice. So that will save a lot of time. And then revise it daily, very important, something that is very understated, but you should whatever you studied in the 3 hour lecture can be easily revised in 10-15 minutes. So that time you can easily take out. I know it is very tough, but maybe during a commute or something. So if you do daily revisions, it'll be easier for you to revise later on. Otherwise, if you just keep delaying the revision, then after a point of time you'll need days even to revise that particular subject, which you could have revised in 10 spending just 10-15 minutes a day. Then resolve doubts, very, very important. Don't put it off for later. Otherwise, they'll just keep piling on. And at the end, you'll just be like, let's not solve them all together. So it's better to get them resolved on the spot on real time basis with your teacher when you're taking the classes. Then comes the first revision. So when you should do that revision, it is again very, very subjective. But I would suggest that, initially, if you take FR as your second subject only, then it is better that when you pick up your third subject ka coaching, then you can pick up the FR alongside. So try and manage more subjects together so that you have a grip over all of them. You can easily, like, you can watch, let's say, if you pick your third coaching as SCMP, so you can easily, watch like lectures in the morning, SCMP ke lectures, and then when you come back from office in the evening or during your commute, maybe, then you can revise FR. Then read class notes. How you should actually revise is read your class notes, whatever you've done in class, the questions that you've solved in class. Practice those questions. If you are a person who have to write everything down in order to practice, then you can practice more questions in your first revisions than in the subsequent revisions. Then complete study material, which is very important. You should never leave any question unattended from study material. Then you should categorize the questions into A, B, C category, A being the most important, C being the least important. That way, as you progress in your number of revisions, you can probably skip the C category part and focus more on the A and B category questions. And especially when you're left with the day before exam, then you can probably just go through the A category questions faster and have a whole view of the entire syllabus instead of just focusing on one, two chapters and doing all the questions there. Then make self notes and mark for theory. So, FR is not a very theoretical subject. It is more a practical subject. Hardly any theory questions are asked. So, I would say that don't spend too much time, on reading everything. You can probably just refer to your class notes to have a conceptual clarity. And there are just certain topics from where usually theoretical questions are asked, and that to a 4 or 5 marker. So, I don't think so that, as per my experience, more than 10 marks won't be given to theory, and that too more often than not theory is asked from 103. They could ask you business or a definition, and from financial instruments, whether it is a financial asset or liability. Then from revenue is a indes which is more theoretical than practical. From that, definitely a theoretical question could be asked. Then the duration of the first revision, again, it is very, very subjective, this thing. So don't take too much stress, during your first revision that you have to complete it in 15 days or 20 days. Spend adequate time, not too much, but not too less also. And try and make your notes very, very comprehensive. And you should know that, this is the set of things you need to refer to from now on. So you can probably also spend like a month also if you're doing another subject also while doing your first revision. But there are people who do like they don't revise during their articleship or anything. They just complete their coaching and straight away do their revisions in study leaves. So they aim to revise at least thrice in study leaves, 2 months, like 2 months first revision, 1.5 months second revision, and whatever time is left is the third revision. So in that case, yeah, you'll have to aim that you complete your revision within 15 days or something, because at that time you won't have much time, right? I would to suggest that you do your revision beforehand only. During try and do it during your articleship. Try and manage more subjects together. Then further revisions. So what is the adequate number of revisions? Again, there is no definite answer to this because it is very, very individual specific. So I would suggest that you are a CA final student and you know what is the best strategy for you, how many revisions are enough for you. So for some people, revising even twice is enough. For some people, doing 10 revision isn't enough. So if you are the first category person, then you can probably do 2 or 3 revisions, and that would be enough for you. You could easily revise in your study leave. But if you're the other category person, then you should and you need a number of revisions to be able to get that thing registered in your mind. Then in that case, you should plan and start your revisions during your articleship only, and not just leave everything off for your study leave. Then the duration of the revisions, so make sure that whatever duration you have set for your first revision, your second revision takes lesser time than that, because at the end of the day we need to know our subject in such a way that we are able to revise it in that 1 day holiday also, right? So try and decrease the number of days you spend on a particular subject with each revision, and try and pick more and more subjects together eventually. Then writing versus reading, what you should do. So again, so I am the kind of a person who don't have to write every question down in order to understand it. So I can just read the questions and frame a answer in my head that this is the particular way it will be solved. You can do that too. Or another technique is you can probably solve the question very roughly instead of making proper tables and presenting the question in a way that you'll be presenting in exams. You can save time on that. Just use the calculator and arrive at a final answer so that you know whether you're able to actually solve the question or not. Then ICISM should be your base. So you have to cover 100% the study material, and financial reporting study material is also very good. They have put a lot of questions there, that to high level questions. Cannot skip that. Additional faculty questions. So during your first revision only, or in fact with your coaching only, mark the questions that are not there in study material. So make a set of questions that these are the questions you need to refer to from your faculty notes. Then in further revisions, now that you've done your first revision, you've done your coachings, you would have a good understanding of what the subject is about. So now you can refer to the past year papers, the RTPs and MTPs. Then FR, particularly referring to these papers, is very important because there are a lot of questions, new types of questions, which are only there in these papers. So if your faculty does not cover these papers, you have to cover them separately. You can either go through them, like read the questions and frame a answer and then go through the solution. Or you could all, if you want to practice one or two papers, you can probably practice the past year papers because they give a better view of how the papers come instead of the RTPs and MTPs. So like I took classes from Praveen Jindal sir, so he covered the RTPs and MTPs separately, so you could watch those videos. Or in fact, I would say that you could save the time on those videos and probably just go through them yourself. And if you're not able to understand a particular question, then maybe you can go to the video and try and understand it from there. Then how you should revise FR in the one day or before exam. So how many days are required for FR? So there are two types of strategies you can follow here. So if you're aiming for 3 revisions during your study leaves, you can either do FR ka third revision beforehand only, and then you can give yourself like 2-3 days maximum to revise FR before the actual exam. Or you can merge the third revision in the time immediately before the exam and give yourself like a week where you can only revise FR for the 7 days. So that will be your third revision and also like your preparation for the exam. So what I did was I left studying FR like 15 days before the FR exam, and I gave myself, I guess, 3 days to revise FR. So what I aimed for was in 2 days, I tried and revise all the Indias. So going through almost all the questions except the C category questions in this case. So the least important questions are the theoretical questions. So I did not go through theory again and again on the concepts. I used to just go through the questions. And then in the last days, you try and cover again the questions like which are very comprehensive and which you are still not able to solve. So those questions, and so that you have a broad overview of all the Indias even on one day before the exam. So in a way, you'll be able to revise, do 2 revisions in 3 days before the exam. So that is a very good thing to do. And follow a top-down approach. So especially in a day before exam, you have to focus on what is more important, what carries more weightage. So you have to focus on A and B category questions more. And then practical over theory, definitely. FR being a very practical subject, don't waste too much time in the day before the exam, fretting over theory. Focus more on practical. Then read more, write few. So in one day, you'll not be able to write and practice a lot of questions, but you'll definitely be able to go through those questions. So try and develop that kind of approach also. And then SM also try and cover 100% of the study material even in 2 days before exam, like almost 100%, ignoring all the theoretical questions and the small questions, illustrations here and there. Try at least covering the TYK questions and the comprehensive illustrations and the important questions that you have marked in your notes, in your faculty notes. Then moving on to the important topics that you cannot skip at all. The first is obviously business combination and consolidation because it comprises almost one third or one fourth of the syllabus. So, and also more often than not, it comes in a compulsory question, so you cannot skip that. And even if it comes for a 16 marks question, a comprehensive question, even then it comes like a 5 mark separate question also comes in the sixth, that is the last question. Then is financial instruments. Again, it is very important and carries a lot of weightage. Then is revenue. Revenue is very, very important. You can also refer to, there's a Bhavik Choksi sir's video on YouTube also. So I refer to that video, but that I referred after my exams for my interviews. So you can refer to that video. It is a very nice, it is a 1 hour video approximately. So that'll give you a good understanding of this in DS. And so you should know the 5 step model. And in this case, theory automatically becomes very important. So obviously, no one can replicate IECI's answer, but you should definitely pick up words like the keywords and try and mention them in your answers. That'll get you brownie points. And then leases again is very important. And then the last two Indias, that is 101 first time adoption and India's one. These are very important and they could also be asked for compulsory question. So in our attempt, first time adoption was asked as a part of a compulsory question. And so again, for this India's also you can refer to YouTube videos. And then India's one, there's this rectification wala question, which is always asked in RTP, MTPs also. So you can refer those papers also for this kind of question. So some of the important topics, but having said that, there's nothing important or not important these days in CA final. So you should try and cover everything during your first, second revisions only, so that you can focus on what is more important eventually, while not skipping anything. So yeah, all the best guys for your exams. Hope you found it helpful. Please feel free to reach out to me in case you have any questions or any queries or any suggestions for me. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please do like, share and subscribe.